Thanks for joining me. Let's get right to it. We are going to be tying a dynamite snook fly. I think it would also probably terrorize the smallmouth bass for you smaller guys up there in the Midwest and Tennessee, Kentucky area. But down here, this goofy looking fly does the number on snook. And the genesis of this fly, I mean, how many floating minnow flies are out there? Hundreds, probably. But someone told me about Bob Clauser's floating minnow fly. I looked at it online. I thought, well, obviously Bob knows what the hell he's doing, but I thought I don't really like deer hair on the back of my flies for a few reasons. So one of the reasons is I just don't think they're fishy enough. They're fishy, I just don't think they're fishy enough. And any opportunity I can get to get some marabou on the back of a fly, I will take that. So we're starting with a Gamakatsu SS15 size 2. So the SS15 Gamakatsu tin plated saltwater hook. We want a lighter gauge hook because this is going to be a floating fly. We cannot have too heavy of a fly if it's going to be a floater. I start my mono thread, which I use the .004, which is pretty easy to cut if you're tying, so that may happen during this tie. We're gonna start like mid shank of the hook and work our way towards the back and build a little base there for our tail, which is gonna be marabou. And it's gonna be long marabou, okay? Let me find this actual package it came in. All right, so this color is cream. It is strung marabou. I am very particular about what actual fibers to use on the feather. I don't want any of the stuff up top. I don't want any of this. What I want is these longer fibers off to the side here. These are the fibers that are gonna make up the tail of the bigly floating minnow. So let's peel some off. You could cut them with scissors. You can just as easily rip them off at the base. And then let's clean it up. Let's pull some material out of there, and then let's get this stuff on the hook. We're gonna do this like groupings like this, like a bunch like this, probably 3 times, sometimes 4, depending on how the material is actually sitting in there. We're tying this way back on the hook, way back. It's an extremely long tail. That's quite a tail for a fly. Most people will say, take your shank, bring it to the back. This is a shank and a half, if not a shank and 3/4 back. And I've tied some that are at least 2 shanks back. So it's important though, when you're using this marabou, to utilize what marabou does. This stuff, I mean, forget ever articulating a fly again. If you can use these long fibers and keep them in place and prevent them from fouling on the actual hook, you don't need to articulate flies. It's kind of mind-blowing how much action you can impart into a fly just by long strands of marabou. All right, we're gonna tie that second group into the tail section, and we just did that. And I just kind of keep working it back. That's a long tail on this fly. There's no debating that. Let me find some longer fibers again. Pull this quill out. All right, let's see if we clean some of this up. Got some there. Let's see what we got over here. If you guys were looking for a video with like cookie cutter instructions and to the point, then you definitely clicked on the wrong video. But hopefully you enjoy tying with me. We had that bunch there. This is our 3rd addition for this tail. Adding that bunch of fibers in and then locking into place. That is probably thick enough, but I think I'll add just a touch more, just a touch more. And if you put on too many, the other thing you can do is you can have a comb. If you've got some material that's sitting funny, especially with this marabou, like on these longer strands, you'll sometimes notice it just really clumps up on the bottom and I don't want to throw that on a hook and fish it like that, because I think it looks like garbage. So there we go. Take some of these out. I do not need a thick bunch like I had been using. Whew. All right, this will be enough. We'll add this in, slide that back, and then we'll just lock it into place. You can do 3. Since I'm using mono and I don't have to really worry about thread buildup, I'm just gonna lock it in. I don't limit myself to 3 wraps. I'm just not gonna do that. Believe it or not, with this fly, you would think a marabou tail, it's not gonna last for anything. You know, maybe a couple trips and it'll be done. I fished some of these flies probably for 6 months, just resharpening the hook between trips. This marabou holds up if you're only targeting fish like snook, even trout. You're not going to destroy this marabou. If you're out there with the ladyfish and jacks and mackerel, this isn't the fly to be using. All right, so now we've got this long marabou. This is going to be very problematic if we don't somehow get it to at least stay pinched in a spot where it can't come back and foul into the hook, which when I was starting to kind of create this fly, just figuring out how to do that in an efficient way and in an aesthetically pleasing way is difficult. It was difficult, but I found that using bucktail is the best method for that. And really, we're just going to build a skirt of bucktail. We're doing our big leaf floating minnow in chartreuse. The color of this is cream. If I was going to do like a white with a red head, I just have white marabou. I'd use white bucktail, but you can use whatever you want. You can mix and match colors to fit your fishery, which do whatever colors work for you. But chartreuse and then the white with the red head seem to be the best as far as I'm concerned in this area. And this area would be, I'm in Sarasota. I'll fish Sarasota some, but I really would prefer, and I do prefer, to go north and fish Tampa Bay, like the South Shore of Tampa Bay, or down to Charlotte Harbor or out of Placida, get in the backcountry there. Considering adding the glades, like some glade special trips, but not as of now. So where we've made this skirt in the bottom, and you're gonna have to do probably 3 to 4 editions of this bucktail to really get it to kind of I'll actually trim the body as well. That's unnecessary. That's unnecessary. All right, now you could fish it just like this, like without doing anything extra to the bucktail, and it would 80% foul proof with that marabou. But you can make it pretty much foul proof by doing one last thing, and that's adding some UV epoxy. If you use loon, you'd be using their thin material. I think it's called Thinner Flow or whatever it is. And I just use this UV glue. It's from the Salty Quill Etsy shop that's run by my buddy Jim, and he gets a good price on this, and you'll get a better price. I like it better than, I think I even said that in a previous video, I like this better than the loon material. But if Loon ever decides to sponsor me, then I like Loon better than this for sure, 100%. And I'm just gonna be pretty generous about putting it on the bottom of the fly, of that deer hair. It's there, it's in there. And then I'm going to pinch it and I'm gonna zap it with the UV. And that's gonna go a long, long way to preventing fouling from that long tail. We'll have to go back and clean up this deer hair though, because it is pretty unkempt right now, pretty out of control. Just, I kind of take care of the long fibers, get them out of there. But it's serving its purpose. This is holding this marabou in. This actual bucktail, I don't think it adds much to the fly. All right, I actually want to cover the bucktail up. And I don't have a lot of this material, but forget the name of it. It's Crystal Web UV, and it's like their hot chartreuse color. It comes much longer than this. I'm just at the very end of my sample that Jim gave me. He sells it on his Salty Quill Etsy shop. I like it. It's got almost like a waxy appearance. It's got a little bit of a flash in it, but it's not flash. It's more of a waxy flash. And I'm not a big fan of flash on the flats. I try to limit how much flash material I put into my flies. A lot of my flies don't have flash. So I just kind of want to go over that bucktail with this. And you know, if you're tying white, you could add some like Glisten Glow. The guys at Old Florida Fly Shop use this. I forget who was tying, but he was talking about scale fall. It looks kind of like scale fall. You kind of get the same similar effect with this material. It's not necessarily as scale fall-y, but it definitely looks fishy without being too, you know, brilliant. I'm gonna add some more to that on the bottom. Kind of lock that bucktail into place. Just about through this material now. Jim, you need to send me some more of this stuff, or I guess I can go on your Etsy shop and buy it. But hit the bottom up too. Pretty clunky looking fly right now. It's gonna need a bit of trimming. I tied this a little bit thicker just because I'm not sure what you guys can see with this video right now. So I just want you to be able to see what's going on, and I will trim it up as needed. Let me just tie this down. We're almost to the fun part, the part that makes a fly float. Let's tie this back. Just see here. There. I'm just trying to give this a little bit of shape, and I really don't want this to be too much of a body. I don't want this to add that great of a silhouette to this fly. I just wanted to kind of complement the bucktail and the marabou tail. Man, who knows how long this video is going to be? It seems like it might be a long one. All right, let me just comb this out and make sure everything is good. I think we'll be all right. Might be a little bit sparse in a couple spots, but we'll be okay. Good to go. All right. And then from here, we're gonna have to get our eyes on and our foam on. And here's what I really like about this part of the process is we're gonna keep it really simple. We're using the EP Game Change eyes, and the size of the eyes is 6mm. And coincidentally, the size of the foam we're using is 6mm sheet foam. So, super easy for you guys to remember. Pull an eye out. I already cut a piece of foam that is about the size I want it. It's a strip of foam. And the way I cut it, using these eyes right here, I kind of line up the foam to the pupil. So go from the start of the pupil to the start of the pupil. And that's about how wide you want your foam. As far as length of foam, I'll kind of wrap it around the eye because that's what we're gonna do anyway. And I'll get an idea, be able to get a rough cut. Then we're gonna take a bodkin. And we're gonna have to pierce it. Get this bucktail off of there, it's bothering me. Right down the middle, and then very, very close to the bottom. That's probably a little low, so maybe a 1/4 inch up from the bottom of the foam. Go right through. And then I actually come through the back side and do the same thing with that bodkin. All right, needs to go over the eye of the hook now, right? So we're gonna slide it on, and you can see my thread wrap right here. I'm gonna cover that up, but let me grab some glue first. This. I'll actually put a little bit of this on the thread wrap, and then I'll push this foam back over the threads. And I'll kind of push it and cup it, almost cup it backwards, so it's kind of cupped in a backwards fashion. And then I'll bring that thread through, and I've got to come back because I'll have thread that wants to start gouging at that foam. So I'll just wrap it up forward, and then I'll clip. It's really simple. I'll just clip this. So now it's not coming through. Okay, so now we've glued this foam together and wrapped it around that eye. That glue's locked it all and made it one giant piece. So we're gonna take the head now and pull it back. And we're gonna take our thread, we're gonna wrap it around. I have pretty rough hands, so this mono actually gets hung up on some of my cuts. All right, I'm just kind of bringing this foam back, bringing it back. And a little bit of glue there. All right, let's whip finish it, and then we're gonna clean it up. First thing I want to do is I want to get this foam even. And I do a lot of this out of the vise, and I actually kind of trim. I want this bottom flat. Hopefully you guys can see that the bottom of this thing should be flat. But I want the corners, the edges to be kind of rounded. Just kind of looks more natural. It doesn't, I mean, this fly doesn't look natural at all, but I don't know. It just looks more balanced, maybe. Just kind of round it out. Right now all you're doing is really shaping the head. The less shaping you do, the better off you are for the most part. And you've got the seam right there, but you're never gonna see that. It's never gonna be an issue. So what we're gonna do now, I like my heads for my chartreuse, Bigly minnows. I like those to be a pretty nice bright green. Prismacolors, I just buy white foam, and I use Prismacolors to get whatever color out of the foam that I want. This one I want green. I can start hitting it green. I will occasionally put some red on this green. Like I might put some red where the head goes back into the actual material, or I might do the bottom red. I think on this one I'll do the base of the fly red. So you're basically coloring right now. It's all you're doing is coloring. But that's okay. And surprisingly, these Prismacolors hold up quite a bit. They're never going to be as dark as they are originally. You might have to do a couple coats of them to get started, but you don't really need to often add more. Let's do the bottom in red, or I don't know what color this is. Let's see what they got. What special name do they have for this? Let's do the bottom in terracotta. How about that? A little terracotta bottom for you. So, pretty simple. And then what I like to do, once I get this base colored terracotta, I like to take some epoxy, flatten this out. And I know that this is all pretty much one piece now because of that glue. I still like to kind of close it all up because I have a seam here. This is where the foam seams together. And I will hit it with some epoxy upside down like this just to get it spread. I'll flip it, and then I'll zap it. Let's talk about how we want to fish this fly, the bigly floating minnow fly. There is one way you can absolutely fish this fly wrong, and that would be fishing it fast. Do not fish this fly fast. Do not strip, strip, strip. Do not strip, pause, strip, pause, strip, pause. This fly catches fish sitting still, and it attracts fish sitting still, especially snook, obviously. We talked about that before. This fly is meant to get it up against mangroves where you've got a little depth, you suspect there might be some snook there, or any place really that you suspect there might be snook in water less than 8 feet deep, preferably 3 feet, 2 feet deep, 4 feet deep. But I've seen fish in 8 feet of water come off the bottom all the way to the top for this fly. The snook are super curious about this fly. They want to know what's going on. They will come off the bottom, they will come up and just look at it. They'll put their nose on it, and then that's when it's up to you to get them to commit. This is a great fly for throwing in areas you think there might be snook, because it will literally pull them from wherever they are. If they're tucked into the mangroves, it'll pull them out of the mangroves. They will at the very least give it a very close look. Once you get them close, it's on you, and you have to kind of read the fish. I tend to still leave pauses. If they're coming at it and they're not committing and they stop, I give it a little twitch. If they're looking like they might, and they might pull off last second, I get a nice little slide, and that sometimes gets them to commit. Each fish is different, each day is different. Some days when they eat this fly, they hold on to it and swim back down to the bottom, and you don't have to be quick. Other days, they suck this fly in and they spit it out just as fast as they sucked it in. And if you're not watching the fly, if you're not paying attention, you're gonna lose a ton of fish. I'll oftentimes have to yell, set, 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 for someone who's not used to this fly, because I can see these fish sipping the fly or just turning on it very quickly, sucking in, spitting it back out. So if you fish this fly, fish it slow, fish it with long pauses, and fish it carefully. Definitely inspect this fly the entire time it's out there. You watch it, because it'll happen very quick. So that is the bigly floating minnow. It's tremendous. It works bigly, and I hope it works bigly for you guys. I hope it triggers some snook.